Hey guys, welcome back to Pace Reptiles. Today we're going to be covering one of the most well-known monitors throughout the reptile hobby and industry, the Ackie monitor. Stay tuned. So, the Ackie monitor actually happens to be in a subgenus of varanids called the Odoctria family of monitors. Within this monitor family, there are a variety of different species, such as the Varanus pilbarensis, Varanus gilleni, Varanus bromicorda, which are all very small monitors, and the one thing that a lot of these species have in common is that they love to hide in rock outcropping throughout their environment. So let's take a look at some of the defensive behaviors of an Ackie. Because that can give us a better understanding on how we can interact with it on a positive note. Ackies are typically in the wild a very timid species. They're going to be darting away as their first line of defense, straight into a rock crevice, and they're going to tuck that spiny tail around their face to protect them from any predators trying to pull them out of that rock. Now, trying to pull one of these Ackies out of the rock is going to be incredibly difficult as they puff themselves up with air and bloat themselves so that they're like a little airbag in that tiny little rock crevice, and then obviously you have to get through that giant fat spiny tail to be able to get the monitor out. They also have quite a nasty little nip as they have quite sharp teeth for their size, and so for their size their bite is quite nasty. Now, because of their behavior with them hiding in rock crevices and then using their tail as a defensive barrier, it makes their tail quite a sensitive point of contact in terms of working with these animals. A lot of monitors, you would use their tail as a control point. With an Ackie, it is sometimes not recommended to do that, in my opinion, as it can trigger a defensive behavior because the little monitor is obviously used to being in the wild and predators pulling at that tail trying to get them out. So using it as a control point when you've got them out may not always be the best way of interacting with them. Another way of doing so might actually be just to slow down their movement by letting their body run through your hands and trying to control their body a little bit more, not restricting them, but slowing their movements down so that they have a time to think and get themselves into the right state of mind to be able to be interacted with. Now, obviously, you shouldn't go in there and grab them out because that's a bad idea, and it's going to create a prey response from them. They're going to run away, and it's going to destroy your relationship with the Ackie monitor. A great way to interact with your monitor is through feeding them food, and you can actually build up trust through giving them food and drawing them out of their hide onto your hand. Is a great way of working with a small species of monitor. Now, obviously, if this was a larger monitor, it may not be a great idea to work with food around it because you could draw on a bigger feeding response that could probably end up with you getting some stitches. Now, with a small varanid like this, it's not too bad, and honestly, if you got chomped by this little fellow, it wouldn't be too much of an issue. It would be a nasty bite for their size, but it's not going to be terrible. And it's definitely not going to send you to the hospital like a large varanid would. In the wild, this species loves to burrow. And these burrows extend right under the bottom of termite mounds, into rock faces, under rock crevices, into the sides of rock escarpments. And that's where they're going to reside most of the day to escape the blistering hot temperatures of the northern parts of Australia. Their territory expands from the eastern side of Queensland all the way through the Northern Territory into the top end of Western Australia. And because of that, there are quite humid temperatures over there as well as extremely hot temperatures. These Ackies can withstand temperatures right up to 60 degrees on the rock. And that's so hot that you could probably cook an egg on it, to be fair. Now, during those extremely hot temperatures, they're going to be hiding in their little burrow that they've made, and the humidity in that burrow is going to be incredible. It could be up to 80 to 90%. Now, I'm not recommending 80 to 90%. I probably look at something around 60 to 70% humidity in there. That's a good way to maintain the humidity in that, and that's going to be where they're going to reside to get the humidity that they need. So within your burrows in your enclosure, you're going to want to have a sprayer so that you're able to spray down into that hole and create a nice humid area for the Ackie to reside. Another great option for an Ackie would be to have a stack of wood or a stack of rocks that have substrate around them or within them, so that you are able to keep them nice and moist and give the Ackie the humidity that you need, whilst being able to easily access the Ackie and not have to dig through his burrow each single time that you're wanting to play with your Ackie. Now, as I said before, the rocks that are in the environment of the Ackie can get up to possibly 70 degrees Celsius, which is crazy temperatures. They're hot enough to scald most people's skin, and so for an Ackie to be able to withstand temperatures like that, they need a good place to reside. So you've got that nice stack in there, which is a great way to regulate temperature. It's going to have that scalding temperature right up there at the basking spot, and then as they go deeper into the stack, it's going to get cooler and cooler and cooler, providing that temperature gradient that they so drastically need, as well as providing amazing hiding spaces that are easily accessed. Now, in your enclosure, you're not going to want a basking spot of 70 degrees. You're going to be wanting a basking spot of around 50 degrees Celsius, which is an amazing temperature for them to be able to properly bask at. It's going to be keeping them at a nice warm temperature where they're going to be active and moving around their enclosure, burning off a lot of that energy and that food that they have to digest. Now, because they're going to be moving around a great deal in their enclosure, it means that they're going to be eating a great deal. You're going to have to find a lot of live feeders such as crickets, dubia roaches, mealworms, superworms. You might want to look at feeding a large Ackie, a large pinky mouse, if their size gets down to below what it should be, as it is quite a fatty meal and it's not something that they're actually going to be eating in the wild. This species in the wild will probably be eating a lot of geckos, small skinks and lizards that are very lean meat and obviously cost a lot of energy to try and catch, as they have to run around to grab that prey item. An amazing food source for that, to replicate some of that behavior in the wild, would be crickets, because they're jumping around the enclosure, the Ackie has to chase after them, and they're amazingly stimulating for the animal's brain to run around after that little prey item. Okie dokie, let's take a look at some of the key features that we have within my enclosure. Number one, you're going to notice these big glass sliding doors. Now, these make it incredibly easy to access your enclosure, because your Ackie is probably going to be quite timid when it is smaller, and so having more space to get your arms in there and work with the Ackie on its terms rather than you just going in there and grabbing it is going to be a lot better for the Ackie and your relationship in the long run as well. Now, obviously, I'm able to remove these glass doors, which makes it a lot easier to get in there. Now, when looking at the enclosure, it looks quite bare, and there's a couple reasons for that. At the moment, there are a lot of visual barriers at the Accie's level. I'm also not in this room 90% of the time, so it means that the Ackie isn't having to hide from me. It's actually just a nice basking area that will provide quite a lot of hiding spots and just areas for it to feel comfortable without too many hiding spots and too many visual barriers, that the enclosure becomes cluttered, and then it's hard for me to actually access the Ackie. Now, it's quite a neat little balance that you have to find for yourself within your own enclosure, but being able to access the Ackie is quite important, and then also being able to have the Ackie hide from you and have a lot of visual barriers is also very important. So things like hides like this, where it's in the corner, he can get behind the hide and use that as a visual barrier. He can also hide underneath the hide, is also very important. So we've got a hide here in the back corner. We have a nice big slab here where he's able to bask and heat up under the heat bulb. We have another higher basking spot over here. There's sand in the center, and it's not actually a true sand. It's kind of like a clay mixture of sand and clay. So it does hold humidity quite well, and it also hardens up after a while. So you're able to spray it down with water, it'll harden at the surface, and then he's actually able to dig into that substrate, which makes it amazing for Ackies and their burrows. Another key feature I have down the back here is I've got another rock that is also tipped up on its side, and so he's able to get in behind there. You probably can't see it on camera, but there's a hide down here, and it's like an intermediate hide, so that he's able to get that intermediate gradient of heat that he would need. There's a lot of open space in here, so because he is an Ackie, he's going to have a lot of things that he wants to do. He's going to be moving around the entire time, and obviously because I'm here, he's in his little hide right now making a liar of me. But we'll actually get him out right now, just so you guys can have a look. But as I said before, having a hide that's easily accessed is really quite important. So having this one rock slab that I'm able to lift off and then able to access my monitor is really quite important. All of these hides within his enclosure are amazing because I can literally just lift off one rock, two rocks, and be able to get to where the Ackie is. Now, because we have rocks in the enclosure, the very important bit here is making sure that the Ackie is not able to lift them up and then push them over and then possibly have them collapse on top of him. One of these rocks is quite heavy. Hey buddy, sorry I spooked him. One of these rocks is really quite heavy. A rock of this size is probably about 2 kilos or so. A little Ackie wouldn't stand a chance if this fell on him. So making sure that your rocks are pushed right down to the bottom of the substrate and up against the wood is crucial. Now, within the enclosure, I've done that with all of the rocks, and rocks that are stacked on top of each other are quite firmly planted, and that is quite difficult for me to move them from side to side and push up and down on them, which is quite crucial to make sure that the Ackie, the little fella down there, can't do the same either. Let's have a look at him now. Hey buddy, you're okay. Whoop. Nice big boy. There you go. So, this is little Dexter. Now, little Dexter is an amazing little red Ackie. What are you doing? Okay, big man. No, I didn't say hi to you early this morning, so you're a little bit scared. It's okay. You're a good boy. Good boy. Calm down. You want to sit on my shoulder? Where do you go? Okie dokie, so this is little Dexter here. Now, Dexter, after having his little run around, I probably shouldn't have woken him up just like that. A lot of your monitor species don't love just getting grabbed out of their enclosure, and that's pretty much what I've just done there. So obviously, don't do what I just did. I'm just grabbing him out so you can have a look at him. But this is a little juvenile Ackie. Little Ackie like this, they come in two different variants that you'll hear about, the yellow Ackie and the red Ackie. Now, this fella right here is actually a red Ackie. He's been digging around in the dirt, so you probably can't see his red colors that much. Dexter is a red Ackie. There's two different variants that you're going to hear about online. You're going to hear about the yellow Ackie and you're going to hear about the red Ackie. Honestly, there is no difference. They just come from a different terrain, different environment, and nothing too drastic changes. Their temperatures are pretty much the same. It's just really what you prefer. You prefer a white or yellow Ackie or a red, orange, beautiful Ackie like this. Obviously, I prefer the latter, and I got myself an amazing little red Ackie. Now, Ackies are tremendous monitors to work with. They're small, so it means that all of the risks that you have with a big monitor aren't there to a certain extent. Obviously, you have the risk of it running away, and if one of these does get away from you to the point where you can't catch it, it's a terrible day. This little monitor is great at getting into little spaces, great at getting under doors. It can fly under doors, in fact, and very, very easy to lose. So make sure that you're working with your little Ackie in an easy to interact spot and in a place where your monitor is not easily, you're jumping off of me, in a place where your monitor is not going to be easily able to get away from you. He is quite good at running away and he loves to jump. Surprisingly, he is actually a terrestrial species of monitor, and over in the more western, northern parts of Australia, you'll find this species does typically spend a lot of time in the trees. They're quite a semi-arboreal species. They'll even get in amongst the bark of the tree, kind of like what a Gillen's monitor might do, which is another species within the Odoctria subgenus of varanids. And so you'll find that they'll do a similar behavior there. Whereas when you get down into the red Ackies, they typically hide within the rock crevices and down under termite mounds. So Dave Kaufman has made an amazing video on the red Ackie that I'm going to link in the description. Go check him out. He's an amazing fellow. You've seen him on this channel before, but has an amazing video on YouTube about the red and yellow Ackie, how they're surviving in the wild temperatures. He just goes super in depth on the climate and also the environment that this species is in. So obviously head on over to his channel and do check out the video that he has on the Australian red and yellow Ackie in the wild. Now, as for this species, it is quite a timid species. So when you get it and it's a little baby, don't be worried if it is just not wanting to hang around with you. It takes a lot of time to tame one of these fellows. Obviously, I haven't done it completely with my little fellow, but because of their timid nature in the wild, it can take a little bit of time before they actually get to a really calm point with you. And obviously, doing it through means of food is an amazing way to interact with them, because they're thinking about the food and then they have to get onto you and trust you to be able to get the food, which is what they want. And motivation is an amazing way to get a monitor to get habituated or to start liking you. Another amazing tool and a bit of a thinker is making the Ackie or the monitor in general think that it did something or it made the choice to do something positive. So a great example of this might be when you're putting the Ackie away into its enclosure. You're not going to want to just like dump the Ackie in its enclosure. You're not going to want to push it off of your hand, because that's you making the decision to do so. With the Ackie, you're probably going to want to just put your hand near a rock or on a ledge, a tree, a branch, and you're going to kind of just edge him off onto it, and then he'll kind of realize, hey, wait, my feet are on the rock, like I can walk away, I can do what I want, and then he'll actually like leave your hand, and that's just a nicer way, and it kind of tricks him into doing something like that. That's a very basic example. There are other ways of getting that method into how you handle and work with monitors on a daily basis. Now, this monitor species, as I said before at the start of the video, it's one of the most kept species throughout the world, and it's probably known as the best starter pet monitor, and truly it is. There is no risk with keeping one of these apart from it running away, and the only other downside is it's probably going to cost a lot for you depending on where you are in the world and your expense for electricity to run the bulbs and the humidity and keep it all correct for them in the enclosure. With this species, it is amazing. They're just completely the most interactive experience I've had with any type of lizard or monitor to this day. They just pretty much love hanging out with you, and they love moving around and just doing things all the time. It's super exciting, and so obviously I highly recommend getting one if you can fork out the money for it. They are quite expensive. Here in Australia, if you're looking to buy an Ackie, you're probably looking at around $250 to $350, $400, obviously Australian dollars. And if you're looking over in the United States, probably looking at several hundred to $1,000 over there. So sucked in, we've got them good over here. But obviously you guys have Asian water monitors and crazy things over there that are pretty damn cool as well. But obviously if you're starting out with monitors, start out with an Ackie Or if you're over in America, another amazing monitor species that you might want to look at is the Taming monitor. It has that typical monitor look. It has amazing patterns and colors, but it doesn't have that spiny tail like the Ackie does. And obviously it's going to need a small type of water source within its enclosure. So that might end up driving your costs up unless you know how to maintain that without a filter. And obviously having a filter is going to make your life a heck of a lot easier. So if you do have the money to buy a filter for that species, be able to put one in. And provide it with a large space. Now that species of monitor is actually semi-arboreal, which means that you're going to have to build height in the enclosure as well as a water source and plenty of terrestrial space in that enclosure. With an Ackie, you're looking at some height, but not too much, depending on where you get a yellow Ackie, or it's a northern locality, a central locality. Over in America, it's probably a little bit harder to work out what locality it is. Mine is a central locality, so obviously I'm offering it a ton of terrestrial space, and once I have habituated it to me personally, I will then fill the enclosure full of a variety of visual barriers and just make it an amazing habitat for the species to live in. Without having to worry about me or my interaction, which means that it's going to be a lot easier for me to be able to interact with the little monitor. He's going to be spending more of his time out of his hide and in the open to where I can interact with him, and I'm not going to have to dig through all the stuff that I put in there later on, which is amazing. And so obviously you can see him there, little Dexter. They're cheeky little fellas. Now, feeding them, as I said before, there are a variety of insect feeders in the wild. They're going to be feeding on geckos and skinks. And so very lean meat products should be offered very rarely. And their main diet is going to be obviously on insects. Here in Australia, dubia roaches are probably the best way to go. When they're smaller, you might want to feed them crickets because it's an amazing brain stimulant. And obviously they're jumping around. It's quite fun to watch. You chuck a bunch of crickets in there and he just run around grabbing them, and they kind of swallow them and chomp them down like they're a velociraptor, which is amazing. Who doesn't love dinosaurs? I think that's pretty much what started all of us in the reptile hobby. So as always, guys, thank you for watching Pace Reptiles. Please remember to like, subscribe, and play Ding Dong Ditch with that bell notification button over there in the left hand corner. That would be amazing. Turn that on so you get notified for all of my new uploads. There's plenty of new uploads being done over this unfortunate time we have during COVID-19. Everyone's at home, so please do check out my channel and make sure you turn on that bell notification so that you're notified for when these awesome videos come out with amazing species like Dexter over here, the Ackie. Awesome. I'll see you on the next adventure. Can you keep pace?